Molalla, Washington, 1911. A local doctor was offering cures for just about everything. She claimed that fasting, extreme fasting, could cleanse the body and restore their health. Desperate people came to her, weak, hopeful, and ready to be healed. Many left smaller. Some left barely alive. Others never left at all. But how did she manage to kill so many people? And how did she get away with it for so long? This is Dr. Linda Hazzard, Dying to Live. Hey, y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Potter. Welcome to Hitch to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And this is in honor of the men and women's USA hockey team a couple weeks ago that took gold.
Gold and gold.
Gold and gold. So here we go. Welcome. And no disrespect to Canada because they've got great players in that game with the men's. Well, both of them actually could have gone either way.
It was really good, but
yeah. USA. So, mad respect to our Canadian friends.
Yes. We love you, Canada.
Yep.
USA. I'm a fan. I'm a diehard fan.
Yep, me too.
Well, wherever you're listening, be sure to subscribe to Hitch to Homicide, then like, rate, and review the podcast so other people who are just like you and love true crime can find us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button below.
Yep.
If you want true crime with us all the time, please go join our closed Facebook group, The In-Laws and Outlaws. Go to Facebook, type in H2H, In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a couple questions, and you are in. Thanks to so many of you who have just newly joined. You're coming in by the loads, and I appreciate you answering the questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Go join. We just need to make sure you're ready for, like, what we're about to show you in there.
I don't know if I'm ready at times.
I post photos and other information in there as well. That's our true crime family. We love them so much.
Yep.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitch to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee link. If you want to send Rob some coffee, he drinks it every single episode. We've had so many coffees bought for us. I promise next episode, I'm going to list you all and thank you personally. I do have that list. It's sitting upstairs on my desk, so I need to go get it. We'll do it for the next podcast.
And I'll drink coffee in honor of you
in
all.
your honor. You can find that link in our show notes. You can also send us a text. The link to that is at the top of the show notes where it says, send Chris and Rob a text. We love getting them. Thanks so much for sending them.
Yes.
This case was suggested by one of our listeners. His name is, you ready for it?
Bring it.
Tom Brady.
Oh, Tom Brady.
I don't think he's that Tom Brady, but if you are that Tom Brady, let us know. Great name.
Yeah.
And a great case suggestion.
And a great quarterback.
Even
though I'm a diehard Bengals fan, I have to give it up to the great Tom Brady.
He was a very good quarterback. Yeah. I agree.
Even though Joe Montana is still the GOAT. And now soon to be Joe Burrow.
True.
Okay.
I will say I do like listening to Brady do the
commentary
on the NFL here. Yeah, on the NFL games. I mean, I don't know how much color he is because he's really technical.
Yeah.
When he's doing it. Tony Romo is a little bit more like Madden, when Madden was just like, the team with the most points at the end of the game is going to win. I always loved him so much. And I think Romo's a little bit more like that. And then I think Tom Brady's very much like, so he's stepping back in the pocket and he's looking east and west. And if this guy's running this route of 46A, then this guy's, he's very technical about it.
The thing I like about Tom Brady is he'll call what they're going to do before they run the play.
He really does.
Because he just understands the game so well. It's amazing.
Yeah, he still sees the field probably even better from up above.
Yep, exactly. Anyway, yet we digress.
But thank you, Tom Brady, for suggesting this case.
Even if you're not the real Tom Brady.
Yeah, you're our Tom Brady.
There we go.
Tom Brady. So let me thank some sources. The Smithsonian Magazine, Digital Archives of Washington State, kittissun.com, kittis. Oh, gosh, y'all, I'm going to mess it up.
Try it one more time. Take two.
They're in the show notes. ForgottenMinnesota.com, HistoryLink.org, True Science Archive, and the Minnesota Historical Society, among others, including the one that I could not pronounce. It's a newspaper, and it's The Sun, and the first name, I think it's Kitsap Sun. I might be wrong.
Okay, well. Whatever it is.
I tried.
All right. Are you ready?
I am.
Then let's do it.
Linda Laura Burfield is born in 1867 in Carver County, Minnesota, to Montgomery Burfield and Susan O'Neill Burfield.
I like the name Montgomery. Montgomery.
It's like Montgomery Cliff.
Yes.
And young people have no idea who that is. She's the oldest of 7 children, and her parents are farmers in Benton Township. Now, in 1875, when Linda is 8 years old, her family moves to Otter Tail County and Star Lake Township. And Linda will say that when she's growing up, her dad, Montgomery, would pay a doctor to give her and her siblings an annual dose of mercury-based anti-parasitic.
Good Lord.
Yeah. According to Linda, this would leave her with chronic digestive troubles, and it is the impetus of what's to come in her life. Now, I can personally sympathize with anybody who has chronic digestive troubles. Mm-hmm. I suffer from celiac disease, in case you didn't know that about me, so I don't get to eat gluten. So Rob eats all the gluten in the house.
Although I've gotten used to the gluten-free stuff, because, 5 years ago, it was like eating cardboard. But the stuff has gotten so good, I actually prefer gluten-free pasta.
Well, there is some stuff that still feels like you're eating cardboard, but it has gotten better. And just in case you are a severe celiac and can't have wheat in your kitchen at all, I am not that severe. I'm not going to go to the hospital if I get cross-contaminated. I'm just going to feel really bad for a while.
Yeah.
So we are careful for all the celiacs out there who are going to text me. So, yes.
Yeah. Ben, you're a really good baker. You make great cakes and cupcakes that are all gluten-free.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yes, I do enjoy baking, but it's taken me a while. It's a little bit of trial and error.
Yeah, I used to weigh 63 pounds. But...
Okay, whatever. In 1885, at the age of 18, she marries Irwin Perry, who owned a livery business in Fergus Falls, which I loved that name too, Fergus Falls. Yeah. These two will have 2 children together, Roland and Nina, and they moved to Minneapolis in 1897 and separated soon after. Now, they will remain estranged until they divorce. And in the divorce papers, Linda is going to claim that Edwin abandoned her in 1898. And many of their friends and neighbors who knew the couple said he didn't abandon her at all. That was false. But Linda likes to stretch the truth a little bit, as you're going to find out soon enough. And
she likes to elaborate.
And that was a very small lie compared to some of the other stuff that's about to happen. In 1898, Linda's 31 years old, and this is when she learns about the works of Dr. Edward H. Dewey, the author of The No Breakfast Plan and Fasting Cure. This is a book that advocated for fasting as a way to allow the body to heal itself. Now, there are a lot of people who do this now. They'll eat in windows. They'll fast for part of the day and then eat in certain windows. And it does seem to help them, and it is supposed to help your body heal itself. I'm not, and please don't email me and tell me how wrong I am about intermittent fasting or how it's the wrong way to diet. Everybody diets their own way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and every once in a while, I don't follow this, verbatim. But I don't eat breakfast and I don't eat lunch.
Yeah.
I just eat dinner.
Yeah.
And when I first started this, it was a little difficult because your body gets used to that routine and you're hungry all the time. But once I got past or over that hump, I'm fine with just eating a good, healthy dinner.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel like they do feel better when they do this.
Yeah.
And she tried it, and she liked it, and she found it successful, and she put herself under the care of Dr. Dewey. She studied with him, and Dr. Dewey was an advocate of fasting as a cure for disease, or, to be more precise, fasting as a way to allow the body to heal itself. Now, fasting is not going to cure a lot of things, but it can make you feel better, and it can sort of reset your body and do all the things that intermittent fasting is supposed to do for you.
So it's not going to cure the fact that I don't like to work?
It's not going to cure cancer. It's not going to cure the measles or the mumps.
Right.
Yeah, polio, any of those things, right?
Or not liking to work.
or the dislike of work itself. Now, in his book, The True Science of Living, where he starts each chapter by addressing the reader, my friends, the readers, which, if you watch Bridgerton, reminded me of dearest gentle reader. And he does start every single chapter this way.
Wow.
But even before she got involved with Dr. Dewey's fasting, Linda was studying osteopathy, I knew I'd get it right, which is a branch of medicine that emphasizes the manipulation of the body more than the use of medicine. In 1901, having left her husband, Laura moves to Minneapolis and sets up an unlicensed medical practice under the name Dr. Laura Burfield Perry, advertising treatment of, quote, all nervous diseases, liquor habits, vices, and painless childbirth, end quote. Okay. So fasting is going to keep you from having painless childbirth. Not true, obviously.
Yeah, okay.
And this is a time before even antibiotics were out. And even the best doctors were kind of like, well, we've tried we've done all we can do. It's in God's hands now.
Here's a couple of leeches. Go home and have a ball.
I've done the bloodletting. I don't know what else I can do for him.
Wow.
But cures were still elusive, and people were really desperate for any type of medical method that could work to make them feel better. And kind of like a social media influencer, Linda had hundreds of followers who believed she was a gifted healer. And Dr. Linda's methods were rejected by medical doctors, but accepted by the public because they wanted to believe. And according to Dr. Burfield Perry, fasting for health and spiritual development is an ancient idea practiced by both yogis and Jesus Christ himself.
No. Okay.
The ancient Greeks thought demons could enter the mouth during eating, which helped encourage the idea of fasting for purification. And Pythagoras, Moses, and John the Baptist all recognized the spiritual power of the fast, while Cotton Mather thought prayer and fasting would solve the Salem witchcraft epidemic.
How'd that turn out?
So a lot of people are thinking, if you don't eat, good things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And of course, what's the rule? All things in moderation.
Exactly. That's why I have soup every once in a while for lunch.
Now, her practice grew, and Linda would later claim that over a 10-year time span, she had treated more than 1,000 patients, which is pretty damn scary, if you ask me.
Yeah.
When 1902 rolls around, her divorce from Edwin is finally over. It's final. and she opens her own medical practice. And by the fall of 1902, Gertrude Young of Minneapolis had come to Linda's practice seeking relief from partial paralysis because fasting cures everything, even paralysis.
Wow.
Gertrude Young became obsessed with the idea of a cure for her paralysis that left her arm and one leg pretty much useless after she had a stroke in 1900. And the physicians that had been treating Gertrude were only able to address the pain she had, which was associated with the paralysis. But that was it, and they couldn't get her mobility back. That's because she's had a stroke and she's paralyzed.
Right.
But Dr. Perry offered her an alternative treatment that she touted as a fix for her mobility problems. A course of 40 days without food and only small amounts of approved liquids.
Okay.
Such as half a cup of tomato broth or strained orange juice when instructed by Dr. Perry. Now, after a meeting, Gertrude was brimming with hope for the cure promised by Dr. Perry. She was so excited to start the fasting cure that she reported her devotion and the regimen to the Minneapolis Tribune at the beginning of October and promised to report her success to them at the end of her treatment. Now, Gertrude Young began Dr. Perry's fasting cure at the beginning of November 1902 in her apartment at 711 3rd Avenue South in Minneapolis. Okay. And a friend stayed with Gertrude while Dr. Perry or one of her hired nurses would check in at the apartment to offer instructions and check on the progress that is moving toward a cure. On November 12th, 1902, nearly a month after beginning the fast, Gertrude was found sweating, shaking excessively, and vomiting a thick, dark, foul-smelling substance. Dr. Perry was called. She advised that the windows be opened, despite the cold temperature, to keep the air in the rooms fresh, and this only made her worse. And later that day, Gertrude's friend phoned a nurse for advice on what to do, how to help Gertrude, whose empty stomach continued to heave. And the nurse visited the apartment and after seeing Gertrude's condition, phoned a Dr. Williams, a physician who had treated Gertrude before she met Dr. Perry. He recommended that Gertrude break her fast and asked Gertrude's friend to provide her with bone broth and vegetable broth and other soft foods until Gertrude's stomach could handle more.
How about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
That probably sounded good about then.
I'm sure it did.
But Gertrude insisted that she proceed with the complete 40-day fasting treatment with the lasting hope that she's going to be cured of her paralysis. And Dr. Williams urged Gertrude, please, listen to me. Listen to reason. And he explained that her fasting would never restore the mobility of her arm and her leg. And it's likely going to end your life. You're going to die if you keep doing this.
You think?
But still, Gertrude persisted as her frail body continued to sink in on itself and her skin turned yellow. She died on November 18th, the 39th day of her 40-day fast.
Wow.
Now, it just so happened that Dr. Williams also served as the Hennepin County coroner. He opened an inquiry into Gertrude's death and ordered a post-mortem conducted by the physicians at the University of Minnesota. A panel of 3 doctors concluded that Gertrude died of exhaustion caused by starvation and noted that she had very little blood in her body. And Dr. Williams added that Gertrude was healthy enough to climb 2 flights of stairs to his office without trouble and, quote, was as fat as butter, end quote. Don't know if I would have liked that from the grave, Gertrude.
Is that the medical term?
Apparently, that's the medical term for being morbidly obese.
Fat as butter.
Fat as butter. When he last saw her at his office in September, and he judged that Gertrude was the victim of, quote, cruel and unnecessary quackery, end quote. and asked that charges be brought against Dr. Linda Perry. And as officials were looking into what charges could be leveled against her, a mystery, or maybe I should say a bit of a scandal, emerged surrounding the whereabouts of Gertrude's jewelry. Gertrude always kept it at her apartment, but it was gone. It's then that Dr. Linda steps forward saying that Gertrude gave all of her jewelry, including the expensive gemstone rings that she wore on her fingers every single day, to one of Dr. Linda's nurses that worked for her. And Gertrude's friend was adamant that Gertrude never mentioned gifting anything to a nurse, and that her rings were removed and placed with her other jewelry in the bedroom when Gertrude began to lose weight from the fast. So if you know, ladies, or even men, if you start to lose weight, sometimes your rings get loose on your hand.
Right.
And she's losing so much weight after 39 days. I mean, she's going to die from it. She can't keep her rings on.
Yeah.
So they put them away. And the nurse that Dr. Linda claimed to have the jewels, well, she just couldn't be located. And reporters and the police start wondering if this nurse ever really existed at all.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Dr. Perry called a bunch of reporters to her offices in the Globe building at 24th Street South in Minneapolis. And at this press conference, she's getting ahead of this. She's a little bit of a PR genius here. Mm-hmm. Somebody dies, she's going to come out first.
Right.
And that's part of good public relations. You get ahead of something, right?
Right.
She calls this press conference and she puts on a show. She was innocent of any wrongdoing medically. And then she went on this very long tirade about how medical professionals were shunning non-traditional methods like the treatments that she was using, these long-lasting repetitive fasts as a cure for any disease. And she tells the reporters that 18 patients had taken the fasting cure under her care and only one died. Now, I don't do math, but Google does, and that's over 5% mortality rate.
Yeah.
Dr. Linda insisted that Gertrude did not follow her treatment instructions, which resulted in her death. And Dr. Linda believed Gertrude, and Gertrude alone, was to blame for her death. And the physicians who dared to question her methods were just jealous of her success. Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
In the end, the panel conducting the inquest into Gertrude's death found that Dr. Perry could not be charged with any crime. There were no laws that prohibited her methods, and authorities reminded the public that Gertrude could have broken her fast and eaten anytime she wanted to,
right,
and gone to another doctor anytime she wanted to before she died.
Sure.
Now, loads of real doctors, MDs, thought Dr. Perry used the promise of a cure to control her patients for her own gain. Well, duh. Yeah. They hypothesized that Dr. Linda Perry kept her patients too weak to comprehend that she was taking their money and their valuables as they starved in order to fund her increasingly lavish business. Gertrude's jewelry was never found. But shortly after the scrutiny from her death quieted, Dr. Perry moved into a larger office on a higher floor of the Globe building and continued to practice what she advertised as suggestive therapeutics, including the fasting cure. And the headline read, quote, "Fasting is nature's remedy," end quote. On November 11th, 1903, Dr. Linda marries, I keep calling her Dr. Linda because she's not really a doctor.
Right.
And I have a lot of respect for real MDs or DOs, doctors of osteopathy. She's not one. I call her Dr. Linda a lot. I just put her as Dr. Linda in my notes.
Gotcha.
But on November 11, 1903, she marries West Point graduate and former U.S. Army officer Samuel C. Hargrave Hazzard. Sam was quite the catch for Dr. Linda. He was the opposite of her first husband and even all the men she knew growing up in small-town Minnesota on the farm. Sam was over 6 feet tall, and he was supposedly an incredibly handsome man with a, quote, cosmopolitan flair of modern men, end quote. He's the OG metrosexual.
There you go. Before there were OG
metrosexuals.
Right.
I've seen his picture. I will post his picture. I'm not quite as impressed as maybe everybody else was.
The bar was lower back then.
Apparently. Yeah. Maybe because he was so tall, because people were shorter back then, and he's over 6 feet tall.
They couldn't see his face.
Maybe that's it. But people actually thought he could have been a male model. Again, not so sure about that. He had a great personality. He was very confident. He was very masculine. He was a snack. He's a hottie. He's a zaddy. And he's also married to Agnes Stagg Hadley. Still, even when he married Dr. Linda.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa.
Now, there are other people who described Sam as a drinker and a swindler. I have to agree with the second half of that.
So they were a match made in heaven.
Yes, they are. Now, Sam Hazzard was married to Viva Fitzpatrick Hazzard, and Viva was Sam's second wife. His first wife lived in New York, and Viva believed that marriage was legally dissolved before they married in 1902. But Sam would leave her just months after their wedding, and they never got divorced. But he's now married to Dr. Linda as well. And Linda thought that Sam's looks and charm would lend credibility to her business. And she believed he was a good match to her own forceful personality.
Sounds like Dewey from Walk Hard.
So Dr. Linda's not going to give him up, right?
Yeah.
Even if he was already married to Viva.
Right.
And Viva testified before a grand jury to Sam's rakish ways, and he was charged with bigamy. He pleaded not guilty, and his bail was set at $3,500. And since he didn't have that kind of money, he was held in jail until his trial date on February 1st. Now, Sam's legal troubles are all over the front pages of the Minneapolis Tribune, but Dr. Linda, now Dr. Hazzard, was standing by her man.
Stand by your man.
Exactly.
Wow.
The man she believed was her husband. She even took it upon herself to prove that the charges against him were false and that the first marriage was never legal, the one to Viva. He never legally married her.
Okay.
Now, in the days before the trial, Dr. Linda is said to have bullied her way into records rooms across the state on a mission to find proof that Sam and Viva's marriage either didn't happen or wasn't official. So she's just bull moose in a china cabinet.
Yeah.
She's just pushing her way into these places.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Viva tells Sam that she's willing to drop the bigamy charge if he would just come home to her. But Sam tells Viva that all that mattered to him was Linda, and he was ready to go to the big house in the name of true love if he had to. When the trial began, Dr. Linda Hazzard stood by her man. She was in court every single day, and while she was there, she was staring down the witnesses, scolding and heckling attorneys and the judge when the testimony or the questioning or the rulings didn't go Sam's way. She would confront Viva outside the courthouse and yell at her and then turn around and yell at all of Viva's supporters. And when she wasn't causing trouble in the courtroom, she was cooing in Sam's ear, rubbing his back and his shoulders from behind him. But all of Linda's intimidation and messages meant bupkis in the end, because Sam was found guilty of bigamy and sentenced to 2 years in jail.
Wow.
Now, his attorney appealed the decision and asked for a new trial, and a stay was granted as the appeal worked its way through the system and the courts. And Samuel was a free man for several weeks, and during this time, he claimed that he was, quote, done with Linda Burfield, end quote. I mean, he's even using her old name. He's not calling her by his last name.
Wow.
And he began making plans for the future with Viva. Sam's appeal will make it all the way to the Minnesota Supreme Court, but the request for a new trial will be denied. And in 1905, Sam was sent off to Stillwater Prison in Bayport, Minnesota. Now, while Sam is in prison, he loses 30 pounds within a month. And at Stillwater, he's ordered to work at a shoe shipping department. And he told Dr. Linda, do not come and visit me. He said, don't come visit me in the pokey.
Right.
He actually forbids her from visiting him. Instead, he went back to Viva, telling her she was the one for him. And Viva visited with him as much as she could. And these two planned a future together after he's released from prison. And because Viva is so devoted to Sam, she's out there working day and night to get his sentence reduced. And Sam's attorney managed to legally dissolve all of his previous marriages, making him a single man. Viva and Sam agreed to be legally married again once he's out of prison. They made plans to move to Nevada so they could be near her parents. Viva's mom and dad were going to let them live with them, and they were going to give Sam a job. Sounds really nice, right?
Yeah.
Well, not to Dr. Linda. She was not having it. She wanted a future with Sam. She wrote to him every day asking him to allow her to visit him just one time. And after many months of begging, he finally agrees to see her. Now, no one knows what happened during that meeting, but when Sam was released from Stillwater Prison in October of 1905, he walked straight into the waiting arms of Dr. Linda.
What?
Viva was waiting for him at a boarding house where she was staying just a few blocks away. But he started his new life with Linda, and Viva was left completely shattered. Now, use your own imagination what happened when she meets with him just one time.
Yeah.
I can't say. I don't know if it was a conjugal visit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Right.
But she somehow convinced him. And Dr. Linda Hazzard's life only got better after bringing the charming Sam into her life and successful medical business. She anointed herself the owner and fasting specialist at Linda Burfield's health home, and Sam became the manager. He's the practice manager of her office.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Linda had aspirations of opening a big old sanatorium in the Pacific Northwest, so Sam and Linda moved to Seattle, Washington in 1906. She moves to Washington State, where she became licensed to practice medicine through a loophole in a licensing law that grandfathered in practitioners of alternative medicine. So I guess if you were like a voodoo witch doctor, you could just become a doctor of medicine in Washington State. A little bit of the wild, wild west, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Hazzard opened offices and advertised her fasting cure in newspapers and magazines that catered to the concerns of the upper crust. She established a clinic called Wilderness Heights in nearby Olalla, Washington. In 1907, one of Linda Hazzard's first patients, Leonora J. Wilcox, would die under Linda's care. Now, not much is known about Leonora, but rest in peace. In 1908, she publishes her first book, Fasting for the Cure of Disease. It was her way to promote the fasting cure for anything that ails you, including cancer. And Dr. Linda believed that the root of all disease was in food, specifically too much of it. Quote, appetite is craving, hunger is desire. Craving is never satisfied, but desire is relieved when want is supplied. End quote. Which is just a way of saying, if your stomach's rumbling, just ignore it.
Yeah.
She believed the digestive system needed to rest through near total fast for days or more. And during these fasts, her patients only ate small servings of vegetable broth and had their systems, quote, flushed, end quote, with daily enemas and vigorous massages that were more like beatings, according to some of her nurses. And Dr. Linda's book was successful enough that it brought in several new patients, many locals and free thinkers and theosophists.
Say that 10 times fast.
Theosophists. They thought that she was so smart and that her remedy of fasting was the wave of the future, and they embraced her medical theories, and one of her fans was a woman named Daisy Maud Hagelin. She was a Norwegian whose immigrant parents once owned Alki Point. It's either Alki or Alki. Her parents bought it in 1869 from Seattle pioneer David Swinson Maynard, and the house on the property, now located at 3045 64th Avenue in West Seattle, is considered to be the oldest house in Seattle. And Alki Point is the western tip of West Seattle. It's a little point of land that juts into Puget Sound and marks the southern entrance to Elliott Bay. It's a beautiful area. It's got great views, beaches. There's a fabulous lighthouse, and the lighthouse is still in use today.
So it's still active.
It's still an active lighthouse, and it's a gorgeous area.
Nice.
But Daisy came to Dr. Hazzard when she is just 38 years old. She had a son who is 3, and she does a 50-day fast under Dr. Linda's direction and died on February 26, 1908.
50 days.
50 days.
Good Lord.
Her son, Ivar Haglund, would go on to make his fortune as the owner of successful seafood restaurants out west, as well as a folk singer.
Oh, really?
He opened Ivar's Acres of Clams on Pier 54 in 1946. By the way, he would go back to Dr. Hazzard and fast for a little bit and then leave, thinking that it did improve his health, even though his mom died there.
Go have a few oysters, come back, fast some more, go have a few oysters.
Yeah, maybe a bad scallop, a bad oyster, and he decided he needed to fast. But when his mother died, her official cause was stomach cancer. Well, wait, Dr. Hazzard, I thought you could cure cancer.
Yeah.
So even though she was starved for 50 days, her official cause of death wasn't starvation. But Daisy was just the first of many. In 1907, Lenora J. Ida Wilcox died after partaking in Dr. Hazzard's healing fast. In 1909, Blanche B. Tyndall and Viola Heaton died from starvation. And in that same year, Dr. Hazzard lost another patient, 26-year-old Eugene Stanley Walken. He was the son of a British lord.
All right.
By the time he was found dead, Linda Hazzard had power of attorney over Eugene's estate.
What?
But Eugene didn't die of starvation. No, his decomposing body was found on Linda and Sam's property with a bullet in his head.
Wow. That'll make you fast.
It was presumed a suicide. But with this power of attorney, Linda is sending wires to Eugene's attorney complaining that she needed more of Eugene's money in order to pay the mortuary. Now, later, the British vice consul in Tacoma, Washington, would say that Eugene was shot by the Hazzards. And as for Linda and Sam, well, they were pretty disappointed when they found out that even though he had a title and she was in charge of his estate, I mean, he was a lord,
right?
He didn't have any money, and his family wasn't rich. So they're really disappointed by this.
Bummer.
As these folks are dying while under Dr. Hazzard's care, the media got up all in their kitchen. And in order to defend herself, she took out a full page in the newspaper to educate readers about her fasting cure. Denying her patients' deaths were caused by starvation, she states, quote, "In each of these cases, it is my absolute conviction that their days were prolonged by the methods employed," end quote. After stating that in her 11 years of practice, only 9 patients had been lost, and she continued, quote, "What doctor can show a record such as that?" Well,
yeah.
She keeps going. When a physician administers a drug and his patient dies in 20 minutes, nothing is said. But when one of my charges dies, there is a great stir. The regular doctors hate me because I have a new method. They abhor anything new, end quote.
Okay. Jeez.
This was in the Seattle Sunday Times. This is her full-page ad.
So the best defense is a good offense.
Apparently. She avoided prying eyes by moving much of her operation to her home in Olalla. And at the time, Olalla is just a town of immigrant homesteaders. She called it Wilderness Heights. It was a property. She wanted to build a sanatorium, but it consisted right now, or at the time, of little more than her house and a few cabins that were like barely standing. And all these cabins are stocked with quietly dying people.
Jeez.
Skeletal patients would wander down into town in Olalla begging for food or help.
Jeez.
Some people said that children would see starving people walking through the woods and they didn't help them. Nobody in the town helped these starving people because they were all afraid of Dr. Hazzard.
It was like the zombies.
I mean, kind of. They're begging for food.
Wow.
And Dr. Hazzard, she comes off as very well-spoken and very well-educated. She had a lot of money, and people in this little backwater town trusted that she knew best. She's a doctor. She must know best. I got to tell you, everybody out there, even today, be an advocate for yourself as a patient.
Yeah.
Don't just take what your doctor says as gospel. If you feel like it's not right in your gut, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Always do that.
Yeah. And a good doctor will tell you, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the people there were immigrant Swedes and Finns. And she's this American doctor, and she's kind of a high-class person, so they're believing her. In 1910, Mrs. Maud Whitney died of starvation while being treated by Dr. Hazzard. But then in 1911, the same year, Upton Sinclair published The Fasting Cure, a book of advocacy. A civil engineer named Earl Edward Edmund took I got his name wrong. Let me try that one more time. He's a civil engineer named Earl Edward Erdman.
Edward Erdman.
Earl Erdman.
Erdman. It's like the chef on the Muppets.
Beardy Bursty Borky Board.
There you go.
But they were Swedish and Norwegian.
Well, there you go. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he took Dr. Hazzard's fasting cure and died of starvation 3 weeks later. And after this, the Seattle Daily Times had a headline, quote, "Woman MD kills another patient."
Not a good headline.
But the people just kept showing up at her doorstep looking for a miracle cure. Frank Southard, a law partner in the firm of Morris, Southard, and Shipley, and C.A. Harrison, who was the publisher of Alaska Yukon magazine, both died under Dr. Hazzard's care a few months later, along with Ivan Flux, who was an Englishman who had come to America to buy a ranch and who had fasted for 53 days. And during his fast, Dr. Hazzard, Linda, and Sam got control of some of his cash and his property, and his family was told that he died with just $70 left to his name.
Jeez.
Still in 1911, Louis Ellsworth Radar, a former legislator and publisher of a magazine called Sound Views, began wasting away. I mean, these are people who are smart, who are showing up at her doorstep. Dr. Linda treated him at the Outlook Hotel in 1911. Health inspectors tried to convince him to leave this crackpot who is starving you, but he refused. And after this, Dr. Hazzard took Lewis to a secret location where he died.
Jeez.
He was 5 foot 11 inches. When he died, he weighed less than 100 pounds.
Man.
Now, after this, the health director of Seattle wanted to get involved, but he couldn't because Dr. Linda Hazzard was a licensed doctor, even though she didn't have a lick of medical school. Nothing to her name.
Right.
But because she's grandfathered in as a practitioner, they allow her to practice as a doctor. But more than that, these patients were willing participants in her starvation therapy. Now, many people said that her patients were flat out afraid of her and they were scared to disobey her once they got started. The only thing this health director could do was to keep an eye on Linda to make sure she wasn't treating children. But Dr. Linda Hazzard's MO, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Patients are housed in Seattle hotels or in cabins on the property she shared with Sam and Olala. And many of the autopsies of the dead would list starvation as the cause of death. That is, unless Linda herself performed the autopsy in her bathtub, in which case anything but starvation would be listed as the cause of death.
An autopsy in the bathtub?
Yes, and we're going to talk about that bathtub a little bit later.
Man.
Then in early 1911, the most remembered and best known patients of Dr. Linda Hazzard saw an ad for Linda's book in a newspaper while they were staying at the Empress Hotel in Victoria, British Columbia. These two women weren't sick at all. They just felt they were suffering from a variety of small ailments. And these are two sisters, Dorothea and Claire Williamson. She goes by Dora.
Okay.
Dora was born on September 9th, 1873 in Madras, India. Claire was born in London in 1877. Their father, George Williamson, was a surgeon and an officer in the British Army in the Imperial Medical Service. He died in 1877, just a few months after Claire's birth, and their mother, Rosalia de Almada Williamson, died in 1893 when Dora was 20 and Claire is 16. Now, the family was wealthy, and an inheritance was left to these two girls by their Scottish grandfather, Charles Williamson. An 1881 England census shows that Rosalie, Evelyn, Claire, and Margaret Conway, who is their nurse, they're all living together at 107 Bagshot Road, Frimley, Surrey, England. Okay. So they're orphaned daughters of a well-to-do English Army officer with a even more well-to-do Scottish grandfather, right?
Got it.
These two little girls inherited $150,000 in 1911, or about $5.1 million in today's money.
Man.
From their Scottish grandfather. And they both received $750 per year from the British government in recognition of their father's service, or about $25,000 apiece on top of their inheritance from their grandfather. So they're flush with money.
Yeah.
But they see this ad in the newspaper, and Dora believed she had swollen glands and rheumatic pains, and Claire had been told she had a dropped uterus. Now, I've been watching Bridgerton. I'm going back to Bridgerton again because the new season is out. But there's this one episode where one of the Featherington girls, and if you're not a Bridgerton person, you're not going to get this, but one of the Featherington girls says she doesn't have dropsy of the pancreas. Yeah. And it just made me laugh because she's like, I have swollen glands. I have this. I have that.
What's a dropped uterus?
Well, I mean, I can only assume that it's like a prolapsed uterus, but that happens if you've had like 17 kids, and I don't think they had any children. I don't think they had husbands yet.
Right.
But that's what it was like, and that's what it sounded like with Dr. Hazzard's diagnoses.
Okay.
Now, these two sisters were very much into alternative medicine. They'd both already given up meat and corsets, I would have given up the corset too.
I'm not going to give up meat, though.
I'm not going to give up meat, to improve their health. And right when they learn about Dr. Hazzard's new Institute of Natural Therapeutics in Olalla, they were ready to undergo what Dr. Linda Hazzard called her, quote, most beautiful treatment, end quote. These sisters had this idea of what the grounds of this institute, I got my quotes up, will be based on how it's all being sold to them. So Dr. Hazzard's selling this, it's all fresh air and countryside and horses grazing in the fields and vegetable broths made from fresh produce from nearby farms. It made me think of Dolly Parton and Steel Magnolias. I've got fried chicken prepared by Christian women. They just think that it's this magical place, right? This magical food. And these two make it to Seattle in February of 1911 after they signed up for treatment. But Dr. Hazzard tells them that the new solarium in Olalla isn't ready for them. So instead, Linda sets them up in an apartment on Seattle's Capitol Hill in the Buena Vista apartment building. Okay. And she starts to feed them broth made from canned tomatoes. Now, that doesn't sound like broth, vegetable broth from fresh produce from local farmers, right?
Yeah.
They get 1 cup of it twice a day and nothing more. No soup for you.
The soup Nazi.
Then they were given, get this, hours-long enemas in the bathtub.
Oh.
Which was covered with canvas supports. And this is because the girls would faint during this treatment. So it was like a sling to catch them when they fainted.
Good grief.
They were also subjected to vigorous walks and massage treatments where Linda would sometimes pound them in the head.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Man. Linda sounds like she has a little bit of an anger problem.
Linda sounds like a bad bitch, man.
Yeah.
She's something else. Not to be trifled with either.
Yeah.
Dr. Hazzard kept them separated as they wasted away. You know, you can't see your sister. Claire began to question the treatment, but by then she was too weak to walk. And Dr. Hazzard managed to get a signature from Claire, willing away a large share of the sisters' wealth and specifying that their bodies should come under the exclusive care and disposal of Dr. Hazzard.
Wow.
On April 22nd, 1911, both Claire and Dora, who are too weak to walk, are moved on stretchers to an ambulance and then by boat to Olalla, where they stayed in an attic room in Linda's home.
Good night.
Now, at this point, they each weighed about 70 pounds. This is according to a neighbor who saw them and was really worried. So maybe that's why Linda pulled them out of the apartment building. The optics were bad for business, right?
Right.
17 days later, Claire Williamson died weighing less than 50 pounds. Dr. Linda Hazzard did the autopsy and did not find starvation to be the cause. Now, these two sisters were really used to their family disapproving of their health journeys, and they undertake this care with Dr. Hazzard. They do it alone, and they don't tell anyone where they're going or what they're doing. And the only clue that anything is wrong is when a mysterious cable, a telegram, showed up for their childhood nurse. Her name is Margaret Conway, and she's visiting her family in Australia. She gets a telegram that only had a few words, and they didn't make sense. And it worried Margaret Conway so much that she bought a ticket to cross the Pacific Northwest to get to the two sisters she had once taken care of. Now, what's happened is Dora somehow smuggled a telegram to alert their nanny to the situation that these two found themselves in. So she somehow sneaks it out.
Okay.
And when Margaret arrives, Sam, Linda's charming metrosexual husband, meets Margaret in Vancouver. So Sam meets her at the boat, and he takes Margaret to Linda Hazzard's Seattle office. And there, Margaret is told that Claire was dead. And Dora, well, she's insane. She was also taken to the ER Butterworth and Sons mortuary and shown an embalmed body. And she's looking at it. This is the nanny who's taken care of these girls since they were very young. She looks at this body and she's like, that is not Claire. That's not her. Then she was taken to Olalla for a reunion with Dora, who was by now a human living skeleton. Man. She's all alone in this terrible, broken down cabin. It's no better than a shack, right?
Wow.
And Dora immediately begged to be taken away. But the next day, she withdrew her request and insisted that the cure was doing her a world of good. So what kind of hocus pocus does this woman have over people? Because she did it to Sam, too, remember, when he's in prison. Yeah. And now she's convincing Dora to stay. So Margaret decides to stay with Dora, hoping to convince her to leave. And she tried to sneak some rice and flour into this soup, into this broth that was made from canned tomatoes.
Right.
And Dr. Linda would tell Margaret that the reason Claire died was because of a source of drugs that were given to Claire when she was a child, and that this medicine caused her internal organs to shrink and gave her cirrhosis of the liver. She's 16 when she gets there.
Wow.
Now, according to Dr. Linda, Claire was too far gone when she made it to her, and the beautiful treatment wouldn't work for her. It just couldn't save her. And Margaret's thinking, I'm not a doctor, but I know bullshit when I see it.
Yeah.
Now, by now, even though Margaret has been there, Dora weighs 50 pounds, and her bones are jutting out so far that she can't even sit without being in pain. Right?
Yeah.
And in spite of her sister's death and in spite of the pain she was in, she wanted to stay. Then what Margaret discovers is that Dr. Linda had been appointed the executor of Claire's estate, as well as Dora's guardian for the rest of her life.
Jeez.
Because Dora, too, had signed over power of attorney to Sam Hazzard. And with Claire gone, what Margaret, the old nanny, sees is that Linda had helped herself to not only Claire's money, but Claire's clothes, her personal effects, as well as $6,000 worth of Claire's diamonds, sapphires, and other jewels. Dr. Linda even stood in front of Margaret, this old nanny, explaining Dora's state of mental health, saying Dora's crazy, and she's dressed in Claire's clothes. Now, the patients were usually separated from each other, but they were all let out for a 4th of July celebration. And during this time, other patients came to Margaret and begged her to get them out of there, saying, we're all prisoners here.
Wow.
And as you might imagine, Margaret Conway isn't buying the load of BS, like I said, that Dr. Linda and Sam are selling. And she tries to convince Linda to let Dora leave. Let me take her with me. But she was merely a servant, and her station kept her from doing this. And Margaret felt too timid in Dr. Linda Hazzard's presence to say anything. So again, how much of a bad bitch is this woman?
Right, yeah.
And she was saying she was very bossy. She was domineering. And Margaret kind of felt like Dr. Linda could hypnotize people with her big voice and her flashing dark eyes. And there were even people who believed that Dr. Linda Hazzard's interest in spiritualism and theosophy and her occult, she had an interest in the occult, had given her strange abilities. Like maybe she really was hypnotizing people into starving themselves. So what Margaret could do was reach out to John Herbert, the sister's uncle. And she sneaks off the property to send a telegram to John Herbert in Portland, Oregon, asking him to please come and free Dora now that Claire was dead. And John Herbert does show up. But Dr. Linda Hazzard tells him that she was still due some money because she had incurred the charges at the mortuary for Claire. And Dr. Hazzard wants $2,000. And these two haggle it out, the uncle and Linda haggle it out.
Okay.
And he pays, I believe, $1,000 to take Dora with them. But it would be the British vice consul in Tacoma. His name is C.E. Lucian Agassiz, who would help bring Dr. Linda Hazzard into the spotlight as a killer. When John Herbert and this consul dig into Dr. Hazzard's past, they discover that she's connected to a bunch of dead people, other wealthy people. State legislator Louis Radar, John Ivan Flux, a New Zealand man named Eugene Wakeland, the man who shot himself while fasting. And in each case, Linda had gotten herself appointed administrator of all of their estates.
Wow.
And at least 12 people had starved to death under the care of Dr. Linda Hazzard. Now, this British vice consul freed Dora from her guardianship with Linda and instigated a court case against Dr. Linda Hazzard for the death of Claire Williamson. On August 15th, 1911, Kitsap County authorities arrest Linda Hazzard on charges of first-degree murder for starving Claire Williamson to death. January of 1912, the trial of Linda Hazzard opened at the county courthouse in Port Orchard, and the place was packed.
Guess there were not too many movie theaters around.
Right. Everybody wanted to hear testimony from the many nurses and the servants that worked for Dr. Linda. And they told the jury that the sisters would cry out in pain during their treatments, that they suffered through enemas that lasted for hours, that they endured baths with scalding hot water. Then the prosecution told the jury about Dr. Linda Hazzard's, quote, financial starvation as well. There were forged checks and letters and other fraudulent schemes that had emptied the Williamson estate. And on top of that, there were rumors that Dr. Hazzard was in cahoots with Butterworth Mortuary, and they'd switched Claire's body with a healthier one so no one would see just how emaciated Claire was when she died.
Which explains why when the nanny came and she said, that's not Claire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dora is going to be the cornerstone and the star witness of the case. They get her out of there. They get her eating again, and she's the star witness. And just like when Sam was on trial for bigamy and Linda acts like a fool, she does it all over again. She was in trouble with the judge the whole time for trying to coach and signal to defense witnesses.
Jeez.
One defense witness was accused of trying to bribe a former sanatorium nurse under Dr. Hazzard's instruction. Then the vice consul's home was burglarized, and Claire Williamson's trunk of personal papers kept at home was ransacked.
Man.
So she's like paying people to harass the consul, and she's paying people to break into homes and try to ransack and get things.
Well, she's got the money to do it now.
Yeah. She takes Dr. Linda Hazzard takes zero responsibility for Claire's death or the deaths of any of her other patients.
Of course she didn't.
She believed, and this is what she wrote in her book, quote, death in the fast never results from deprivation of food, but is the inevitable consequence of vitality sapped to the last degree by organic imperfection, end quote. So if you die while fasting, you already had something deadly going on that was going to kill you already, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Linda Hazzard believed this was all just an attack on her because she was a successful woman who didn't believe in conventional medicine. Quote, I intend to get on the stand and show up that bunch. They've been playing checkers, but it's my move. I'll show them a thing or two when I get on the stand, end quote.
Well, let's see how that works out for her.
She never takes the stand. But there were others who believed, as she did, that fasting was good for the body. Henry S. Tanner, a doctor who fasted for 40 days in New York City in 1880, he offered to testify as a conventional doctor who also practiced more natural methods. And on the face of it all, there were 121 New Zealanders who signed a petition asking the judge to, quote, look upon Dr. Hazzard's methods as treatment, as a boon to suffering humanity, and her incarceration as a terrible loss, end quote. Well, the judge was like, no.
No, that's not going to happen.
By the way, the press during the trial would call her Mrs. Hazzard, and it pissed her off. Quote, "I have told you time and time again, it is Dr. Hazzard. Mrs. Hazzard is my mother-in-law," end quote. The prosecution had a paper trail, including a forged diary entry saying Claire wanted Linda Hazzard to have her diamonds. The jury who heard this case didn't believe Linda Hazzard was a victim of political persecution, and after they went back to deliberate, they returned with a verdict of guilty. On February 7th, 1912, she was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to hard labor for 2 to 20 years at the penitentiary in Walla Walla, Washington. She also had her medical license revoked. An appeal was made all the way to the Supreme Court, but it was rejected December 1913. Linda Hazzard surrendered herself to the penitentiary in Walla Walla, Washington after that. In the press, the media said if she'd been a man, the verdict would have been murder. Don't doubt that at all. Mm-hmm. But while she's awaiting sentencing, Dr. Linda Hazzard managed to kill another patient, Mary T. Bailey. After the Hazzard trial, Dora Williamson married an old family friend, Reverend Wyndham Allen Chaplin, on May 7th, 1914, and the two settled in England. Chaplin drowned in August of 1914, only a few months after their marriage. In 1930, Dora is recorded in a ship's passage from Southampton to Java as Evelyn Dorothea Chaplin, with the occupation of writer. She died January 2nd, 1945, at the age of 72.
There you go.
As for Linda Hazzard, she would serve 2 years in prison before she walked out on parole in December of 1915. Then a year later in 1916, for reasons that are unknown, she's pardoned by the governor, Ernest Lister, who told her she had to move to New Zealand. It was like, I'll pardon you, I'll let you out, I'll pardon you, but move to New Zealand where all those people think you're great.
Yeah, get out of here.
And the state of Washington would never reinstate her medical license, and she packed up her panties and all the clothing and the money that she stole from her patients and moved to New Zealand. And while in New Zealand, she practiced her brand of starvation for health and published a second book, Diet in Disease and Systemic Cleansing. Now, while she's in New Zealand, what do you think happens?
I'm going to say a few people died.
She kills more people. Yeah. And then for some reason, she wanted to come back to the United States. And when she returned in 1920, she had even more money to her name. And she finally builds this sanatorium of her dreams, calling the building a, quote, school for health, end quote. She no longer has a license to practice medicine, so now she runs a school. And while at the school, her fasting methods killed Leonard Ritter in 1925. But she'd had too many deaths, a conviction, she'd been in prison, and her reputation is pretty much toast. In 1935, the school burned to the ground. And when it did, there were less than 12 people in this 100-bed facility. And 3 years later, Linda Hazzard, who was in her early 70s, became ill. So what do you think she does?
She got a ham sandwich, a bunch of chicken legs, some spaghetti.
She ate that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. No, she fasts.
Okay.
But lo and behold, it did not heal her, and she died on June 24th, 1938. Her husband and devoted metrosexual man, Sam, would die 8 years later. Today, all that remains of her sanatorium, a place that was known as Starvation Heights, is a 7-foot concrete tower and the ruins of the building's foundation. The office she had in downtown Seattle at the Northern Bank and Trust Building on 4th and Pike is still there. There are lots of stories surrounding Starvation Heights, mostly about the dead and the locals who would sometimes come across skeletal escapees who were staggering down the road begging for food or stagger into town asking for food and help. The home, the most murderous home in Washington history, well, there's not much left. The bathtub where Linda Hazzard performed her autopsies is still there. And the hook used to boil kettles for enemas is still attached to the fireplace that is also still there.
So somebody actually lives in this house?
They own the property.
Okay.
The house isn't there.
Okay.
But the bathtub is there and the fireplace is there. I think maybe part of the house is still there.
Got it. Okay.
And there have been psychics and ghost hunters who have come to the property. And according to the new owner, one psychic from the Discovery Channel, quote, went crying into the woods. She flipped, end quote.
Oh, man.
People do get odd feelings when they're in and around the area. But that is the story of Dr. Linda Hazzard and Starvation Heights. Be sure to eat a well-balanced diet, y'all. And that's all I have to say about that. For nearly 7 years, Jane Doe has lived in the shadows, her past buried deep beneath layers of secrecy and silence. After completing more than was asked of her in her last assignment for the enigmatic Kaiwolf project, Jane Doe vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of dead bodies and unanswered questions. But now, as the specter of her past returns with a vengeance, Jane finds herself thrust back into a world she thought she'd left behind forever. When her former sins come knocking on her door, Jane is faced with an impossible choice. Continue to hide in the shadows, or once again take up arms against the forces that threaten to tear apart the fabric of society. With enemies lurking around every corner and allies who may not be what they seem, Jane must rely on her wits, training, and her unyielding determination to survive. And while trust is a luxury she cannot afford, Jane must confront the truth about herself and her past. As the clock ticks, she realizes that the line between family, friend, and foe are razor thin, and in the end, the only person she can rely on is herself. Jane Doe 4 Charlotte is available September 24th, 2024. No name, no regrets, no mercy.
Okay, my take on this, it doesn't surprise me. And you look at like Reverend Jim Jones and people like that they have this charismatic kind of personality that just draws people in, and they can make them believe whatever they want them to believe.
It's
scary.
Yeah, they thought that she was hypnotizing people.
Yeah.
Who could say? But what a crazy case. So thank you, Tom Brady, for suggesting it. And I really enjoyed digging into all the old newspapers.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. But she was something else.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to leave her behind because she's evil.
Yes, she is.
And let's do some.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, let's do some less evil with a little bless you hot.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number one. This takes place in York, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Police say a central Pennsylvania man tried to rob a bank, but tellers' empty cash drawers thwarted his attempt. Springettsbury Township, Police Lieutenant Scott Laird said the tellers were waiting for their cash drawers to be filled when a man entered a Susquehanna bank branch Thursday morning and demanded money. Unfortunately for him, the first teller fainted, and the next two showed him their empty cash drawers.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Luckily, a customer at the drive-thru called 911, and a 48-year-old man was arrested about 10 blocks away and was held in the York County Prison in lieu of $25,000 bail. He was charged with criminal attempt to commit robbery. Now, the punchline of this whole thing, Lieutenant Laird says, after the robber was denied the money because of fainting and empty cash drawers, he threatened to file a complaint with bank management before leaving.
Seriously?
Oh.
All I could think of was, you know what? Even if you're not fainting, pretend to faint.
Yeah, exactly. All right, number two.
Yes.
You chose poorly. Police in Ossining, New York were called to a mini-mart where they found Blake Leak 23 trying to break in. They chased Leak through the streets until both cops took a tumble.
Uh-oh.
Now, seizing the opportunity, Leak sought refuge on the grounds of a large building. One little problem, though. The building was Sing Sing Maximum Security Prison, where he was promptly nabbed by a guard.
That is quite unfortunate.
Oh, my gosh. You chose poorly.
You did choose poorly.
Yeah. Okay, number 3 and finally.
Finally.
But I have a reservation. Okay, Mitchell Deslot walked into a Baton Rouge, Louisiana hotel and asked the clerk for a room. The clerk wasn't a clerk. He was a state trooper.
Oops.
And the hotel was actually a state trooper station. That's when Deslot was arrested and charged with drunk driving.
And they gave him a room.
They did give him a room for free. There's your stupid criminals. Bless their hearts.
That was good. Well, if you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you got to do is go to Hitch to Homicide. When you get there, there's a pull-down menu, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case, just like this one was suggested.
Yes. Thanks, Tom Brady.
Or tell us about your brush with true crime. That's my amazing husband out there.
That's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.